Welcome to Trending Update USA. I am Steffan, and today we bring you a deep, emotional, and revealing story from the world of elite tennis, one that goes far beyond trophies and rankings and dives straight into the human side of high-performance sport. Coach Wim Fissette has worked with some of the biggest names in women's tennis, guiding Grand Slam champions, navigating pressure-packed locker rooms, and helping elite athletes manage expectations that most people will never experience. But in his first year working alongside Iga Swiatek, the world number 1 and 4-time Grand Slam champion, Fissette admits there was one moment that tested him more than any other in his career. A moment he now openly describes as the most difficult of his first year with the Polish superstar. When Fissette joined Swiatek's team, expectations were sky high. This was not a rebuilding project or a long-term gamble. This was a partnership formed with one goal in mind: sustaining dominance at the very top of the sport. Swiatek was already a multiple Grand Slam champion, already the most consistent player on tour, and already carrying the weight of an entire nation's expectations on her shoulders. Stepping into that environment required not just tactical brilliance, but emotional intelligence, patience, and an understanding of what it means to coach someone who is already the best. From the outside, Swiatek's results during that first year appeared strong. Titles were won, finals were reached, and the ranking remained secure. But behind the scenes, Fissette reveals that the journey was far from smooth. The most difficult moment did not come after a crushing loss or a controversial match. Instead, it came during a period of internal struggle, where progress felt invisible, pressure was relentless, and confidence wavered despite outward success. According to Fissette, the hardest part was realizing that coaching a dominant champion is not about radical change, but about navigating fine margins while protecting the athlete's identity. He explained that there was a moment when he felt unsure whether his message was truly landing, whether the adjustments they were working on were helping or unintentionally creating doubt. For a coach known for his calm demeanor and experience, that uncertainty was deeply challenging. Swiatek, by nature, is intensely analytical. She wants to understand every detail, every decision, every tactical shift. Fissette acknowledged that early in their partnership, there were moments when the amount of information being processed became overwhelming. Balancing technical improvement with mental clarity became a delicate act. The most difficult moment, he says, came when he sensed that the process itself was becoming heavier than the results justified. That realization forced Fissette to pause and reflect. He had to ask himself a crucial question: was he helping Iga become an even better version of herself, or was he unintentionally adding pressure to an athlete who already demanded perfection from herself? For a coach, admitting that possibility is not easy. It requires humility and the willingness to adjust one's own approach. Fissette revealed that the turning point came through honest conversations. Not just about forehands, footwork, or serve placement, but about emotions, expectations, and trust. He described sitting down with Swiatek and addressing the discomfort directly, acknowledging that the transition period was tougher than either had expected. Rather than avoiding the tension, they confronted it together. Swiatek, for her part, showed the maturity that has defined her rise. She did not shy away from expressing her own frustrations. She admitted that there were moments when she felt disconnected from her game, even while winning. That paradox, winning without feeling fully aligned, is something many champions face but few openly discuss. Fissette says hearing that honesty helped him recalibrate his coaching. The most difficult moment, then, was not a single match or loss, but an emotional crossroads. A point where both coach and player had to decide whether to double down on trust or allow doubt to creep in. Fissette admits that as a coach, you often feel responsible not only for results but for the athlete's emotional state. Carrying that responsibility with someone as globally visible as Swiatek amplified the pressure. What followed that difficult period was a renewed sense of clarity. Fissette adjusted his communication style, focusing on fewer key messages rather than constant fine-tuning. Training sessions became more purposeful, less crowded with instructions. The emphasis shifted toward reinforcing Swiatek's strengths rather than obsessing over minor weaknesses. This shift, Fissette says, made an immediate difference. Swiatek began to play with more freedom, trusting her instincts again. matches felt lighter. Decision-making became sharper. While tennis fans saw continuity, those inside the team felt a genuine reset. The difficult moment, in hindsight, became a foundation for growth. Fissette also reflected on how coaching Swiatek challenged his own assumptions. Having worked with many top players, he thought he understood elite pressure. But Swiatek's combination of dominance, discipline, and self-criticism revealed a different dimension. She does not settle for being better than her opponents. She strives to meet an internal standard that is constantly evolving. That internal standard, while powerful, can also be exhausting. Fissette says one of his key lessons from that first year was learning when to push and when to protect. Sometimes, the best coaching decision is not to add something new, but to create space. Space for confidence, for joy, and for perspective. Fans often view coaching relationships through the lens of immediate results. Wins validate decisions, losses spark criticism. But Fissette's candid admission pulls back the curtain on the emotional labor behind elite success. The most difficult moment was not visible on a scoreboard. It existed in quiet doubts, long conversations, and the responsibility of guiding a champion who already carries immense weight. Swiatek's response to that period speaks volumes about her character. Rather than retreating, she leaned into the discomfort. She engaged in dialogue, trusted the process, and continued to work with the same intensity that brought her to the top. Fissette credits her openness as a key reason they emerged stronger. As the partnership matured, so did the understanding between coach and player. Fissette says he now has a clearer sense of when Swiatek needs challenge and when she needs reassurance. That balance, he believes, is the cornerstone of sustainable success. Championships are not won by constant pressure alone, but by knowing how to manage it. Looking back, Fissette does not shy away from calling that period the hardest of his first year. But he also calls it the most important. Without it, the partnership might have remained functional but fragile. By facing the difficulty head-on, they built resilience that statistics alone cannot measure. In today's tennis landscape, where schedules are packed and scrutiny is relentless, maintaining emotional equilibrium is as critical as physical fitness. Fissette's experience with Swiatek highlights a truth often overlooked: even the most dominant players are navigating uncertainty. Coaching at that level is less about authority and more about alignment. As Swiatek continues to compete at the highest level, the lessons from that difficult moment remain relevant. They inform how setbacks are handled, how expectations are framed, and how progress is measured. For Fissette, it reinforced the idea that success is not linear, even at the top. This revelation also reshapes how fans might interpret future struggles. A dip in form does not always signal decline. Sometimes, it reflects the natural tension of growth. The difference lies in how that tension is managed. In Swiatek's case, it was met with honesty and adaptation. Fissette believes that the most successful partnerships are those that survive discomfort. Anyone can enjoy the highs, but true trust is built in the lows. The most difficult moment, he says, tested that trust and ultimately strengthened it. As the tennis world watches Swiatek chase more titles and history, few will remember the quiet challenges behind the scenes. But for Fissette, that first year will always be defined by the moment he had to confront uncertainty and choose communication over assumption. It is a reminder that even in a sport measured by points and trophies, the most significant battles are often internal. Coach and player, navigating pressure together, learning not just how to win, but how to endure. And that is what makes this story resonate beyond tennis. It is about leadership, trust, and the courage to admit when something is hard, even when success suggests otherwise. Then Fissette's most difficult moment was not a failure. It was a turning point. One that helped shape a stronger partnership with one of the greatest players of her generation.